people from the north and east who are affected by the 3 or 4 decades of war are of almost unanimous opinion that the actions and the violence let loose on the Tamil people had been amounting to genocide. And when it comes from our areas, from our leaders, it is nothing strange. But when people from the south, where they make a common cause with us, it becomes a news. And they are found fault with the majority of the people. And even in the Catholic Church, the top leaders, they try to find fault with them for calling what happened in the north and east genocide. And even after knowing what happened in the north and east during the last 3 or 4 decades, they do not seem to understand that what happened in the north and east is a genocide. Today, we are commemorating the 45th anniversary of the burning down of the library, one of the biggest and most valuable library in the north and east, which preserved about 97,000 volumes of rare materials, archival material, parchments, aulas, and a number of other rare past writings. All these were burnt within one single night, and this burning was not accidental. It was well organized and orchestrated by the government, supervised by the 2 leading ministers, and executed till the last page of this 97,000 volumes have been burnt to ashes. And that we consider it as amounting to cultural genocide, try to destroy the valuable historical past of the people in the north, the Tamils in the north and east. And there are also other kinds of genocides which we had been experiencing. And what we see coming out during these days is the unearthing of the Chemmani mass grave site. It was brought to light by one of the culprits who was sentenced to death after a prolonged case of murder of student Krishanti, and one of the accused who was sentenced to death, our soldier Sergeant Rajapaksa, he came out with the statement that there were hundreds of bodies being brought to the camp at night, and they were involved in burying the bodies there. And he was able to say that there was a camp nearby, and in the camp, bodies used to be brought at night, and they saw to it that those bodies were burnt. And now according to the court orders, excavations have been taken place in the past few months, and so far about 250 bodies have been, skeletal remains have been found. And these are men, women, even children, and even babies in their mother's embrace. Their skeletal remains are also found. So that shows that these people were summarily executed. We can see the marks of execution in the skulls and in the bodies, and summarily executed at point blank range and shot and being brought and buried there. During those days, there used to be mass arrests, rounding up and bringing of people from houses and they never returned. And it is an expensive process to find out who these bodies are, to find out how each person was killed, and all the details. It may be an expensive affair, but the clear sign is that there had been mass murder during the past several decades. And there were also other mass graves in the north and east. For example, in the Satosa complex in Mana, where they were trying to build a building for the Satosa building complex, they found number of skeletal remains, and they found by further digging more and more skeletal remains, but that also remains incomplete. There were skeletal remains at Mandai, at Tirkeswaram, when they were trying to unearth the land for some pipelining. They found skeletal remains, and there was an army camp close by, and there were also other skeletal remains at Kokulai, and these were some of the known mass grave sites. And during the final stages of the war, when there were several thousands of people who were boxed in a small area of land, and that area was declared as a no-fire zone, and when they were all locked up in that boxed area, there were shelling and bombing, and thousands of people died there. The remaining people, they were starving because they had nothing to eat. When they were injured, there was no medication. And when they were injured and taken to the makeshift hospital, the hospitals were bombed. That way, several thousands of people died in the final stages of the war in May 2009. And in that area, government made an announcement that people can, the LTT cadres can surrender with white flags. And Francis Joseph was trying to facilitate the surrender operation. He had an option to go along with the civilians, but he wanted to make sure that the surrender operation functions smoothly, since he knew both languages and since he was a priest. He could have some credibility also among the army. He got down a sheet of paper and started writing down the names of the tiger cadres who were surrendering. And in the habeas corpus case, in which 8 people cases was presented in the courts, there were evidence to show that Francis Joseph was there till the last stages of the war, and he was trying to facilitate the surrender operation. But he, as well as the other tigers who surrendered and taken in buses to some undisclosed destination, they never came back. Nobody saw them anywhere. And like that, even in the camps, where the people who returned after the war were housed in Chettigudam and Vavuniya and other places, it was announced the people who had some connection with the tigers, they should come forward, and they are needed for questioning, and they were all taken for questioning, and those people also never came back. And so far, about 15,000 people had disappeared, these are all due to enforced disappearances, because they were taken for questioning or they surrendered and they never came back. And during the past 4 or 5 years, the near and dear ones of these people are fighting at Vavuniya, at Kolinachi, at Trinkamali, at Pudukudirpu for the return of these people, or to know what happened to them. They are still waiting for a reply. The government made an office to satisfy the international body, the Office for Missing Persons. They had number of inquiries and they spent millions of rupees for the functioning of this office, but so far not a single person was found alive or they were able to find out where those people are. And there were also a number of white van abductions which took place not only in the north and east but also in the south. And those people also never came back. And those people, some of those people, we have clear evidence that they were taken for ransom and they were allowed to talk to their family members, and they were trying to arrange some funds for them to get them back, but they never returned. And some of the cases which were found with clear evidence of certain people like Vasanta Karnagoda at Trincomalee camp, who was in charge of the camp. There about 5 of the youth were detained and they were eventually tortured and put to death. And these kind of things had been the normal procedure in the north and east during the time. There were a number of newspaper reporters who were killed, not only in the north and east but also in the south. And there were, right from the beginning, the burning of the media, burning of the paper, newspaper, Udanadu, Udayan, and killing of some people who were working there, and a number of people who were broadcasting in the news, like the BBC reporter, Mailvanam, Nimal Raj, and a number of other people, Nadesan, and a number of people in the east. Some of the killings are trying to beginning to come out because of the government's operation now. And all these amount to clear genocide. And that's why the international body is aware that there had been a genocide even after the NGOs, especially the foreign NGOs, were evacuated from the war zone during the final stages of the war, because the government wanted the war region to be or the operations of the government to be a place where there were no witnesses. But they were all the same getting witnesses, and the government has clear evidence from Channel 4 and number of other evidences of people who had been there, of the war crimes committed by Shavindra Silva, Kamal, Gunaratna, then the Navy personnel and a number of people who were involved in the killing of Balachandran, Prabharan's son, Isapriya media, newspaper, broadcasting person in the Tigers Broadcasting Corporation, and a number of girl tigers who were raped and killed, and their bodies displayed without clothes and all that, and just violating all norms of war between two factions. And because of that, Sri Lankan government is not able to send its forces led by Shavindra Silva and Kamal Gunaratna and others for the international peacekeeping bodies. Earlier, Sri Lankan government used to send their people for international war-keeping, peacekeeping regions, but now they are not allowed. Not only that, the people who are leading this operation, they are not allowed to even to visit other countries. Their assets in the foreign countries are also frozen. So that shows the foreign countries accept the fact of genocide committed by the Sri Lankan government, and that is what is presented by the Father Jeewantha Peiris, saying that what happened in Sri Lanka was a genocide, and they were because of that, the bishops' conference, they found fault with that because they still cling on to the age-old notion that it is a war against terrorism. And the history of the LTTE and why they took up arms. They took up arms only after all the peaceful means were depleted. Peaceful means did not succeed, and gradually there was unleashing of violence against the civilians, like the Kumudini boat massacre, and then killing of Nawali church bombing, and number of other killings took place, and the church doesn't take into consideration as facts and events which killed thousands of people. Also the killing at, selling at Madhu Church, Madhu Shrine, St. James Church, then some number of Hindu temples, Balipuram Temple, Nagarkoil School, and a number of killings in the east, Satrukondan, and number of other places where ordinary civilians were killed. All that the government doesn't, the church leaders overlook, and they consider some of the killings as Arantala monks massacre, and some killings at Anrajapura, and that doesn't mean that we in the church allows or condones these killings. We are against violence, but we are against this genocide which has taken place, which is amounting to the loss of lives of several thousands of people. So we are sorry about the position still held on by the church, that what took place in the north, let loose by the government, is they won't accept it as a genocide. Though privately or individually, some of the people, some of the bishops, they feel sorry that the library was burnt, or some people were killed at in the war, but jointly they try to play safe and try to say that soldiers cannot be sacrificed, whatever they do, even the most drastic of human rights violation, they seem to condone it. So we are very, very sad about the position taken by the Bishops' Conference in finding fault with Father Jeewantha Peiris for his statement on genocide which took place in the north, and we all firmly stand by the statement made by Father Jeewantha Peiris, because he is bold enough to accept the fact and accept the truth and speak it out in public.